Hello there, and welcome to More Movies Weekly number 32.
Bill's 32. He looks 32.
This is the podcast where we like to talk about film, movies, cinema. Are they all the same thing? Are they different things? We'll leave that to you to decide, but we like to talk about them anyway. My name is Greg Fisher. His name is David Roberts. How you doing this week, Dave?
I am fantastic. How are you, sir?
Fantastic. All the better for seeing you, my friend. We got a big packed schedule this week, so let's crack straight on with the show. So this week we have been watching a film that was voted for by our pledges on Patreon. This is a film called Train to Busan from 2016. It's a South Korean film. It's a zombie movie, people. Oh my God. It was directed by Sang-ho Yeon. I hope I said that right. But yeah, this was a crazy, full-on, epic kind of journey from A to B with loads of zombies along the way. Let's see who survives. That's the kind of trip that we're on with this one. Dave, what do you know about this movie?
It was interesting because it's one of them films that we've perpetually heard about for the last 5 or 6 years. Everyone keeps going, "Oh, you should check out Train to Busan." You know, it always comes up around Halloween time and zombie film. It's really good. So it was cool that it came up really on the vote really on Patreon for us to watch it. It was kind of an excuse to go, right, let's check it out then. We've been meaning to watch this for a long time. Very different zombie film. It's like Korea's answer to 28 Days Later, essentially. But also a bit, there's the drama in there and the emotional ties, but also, as I mentioned to you after I'd watched it, it felt very much, at least for the second half of the film, like a disaster film. Just like, who's getting popped off next?
Well, that's the thing. It is a bit of a disaster movie as well as a zombie movie. And I would liken it closer to something like World War Z rather than 28 Days Later.
Yes.
28 Days Later, yes. 28 weeks later, yes. Why not? It is a disaster movie in the sense that, the world in which the story is happening has experienced a biochemical leak, which has caused a zombie outbreak, basically. It's caused people to turn into zombies, one form or another. And so there's loads of stuff going on all over the country. So they're on this train from A to B. I don't know where they leave, but they're heading to Busan. And there's obviously plenty of places along the way that, as there is on these train journeys, just different stops. And
that's it, yeah.
And they gradually find out, and therefore we find out as the audience along the way that, this thing is not just happening locally on the train, it's happening all over the country. So it's kind of like you say, it's a disaster movie. It's like goes from bad to worse to absolutely funked up beyond belief. As with all of these movies, when we talk about disaster movies, we're talking really about one of our favorite ever movies, something like The Poseidon Adventure.
Exactly the form that I was thinking, yeah.
So at the start, nothing's wrong, everything's okay, and we get introduced to the characters, the people that we're going to be taking this journey with. In this case in particular, it's about a father and daughter. Now, it seems that they are coming from a broken marriage. The mother is in Busan. The father has custody of the daughter, and he lives in, I don't know where they are, Seoul or something like that, maybe. And they've got to travel to Busan to take the daughter to see the mother. That's basically the thread, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And, on the way, on the journey, this outbreak happens. It starts to happen to people on the train. And obviously it's like a virus, an infection, isn't it? Once you get bit by a zombie, you turn yourself quite quickly in this case. I thought this was like, of all of the movies in this genre, and it's one of the most oversaturated markets of all kind of subgenres of horror. The zombie movie has been done to death, inside out, back to front, every which way but loose.
Oh, come on. Has anyone seen Every Which Way But Loose?
The main ones that we tend to get these days are the comedy zombie movies, like Zombieland, like what was that other one we were talking about? Shaun of the Dead. There's the British version. This one is obviously takes itself a little bit more seriously. There's comedy within the horror mixed in with it, but it's not a comedy film, is it? It's supposed to be quite a serious shit your pants zombie movie.
Yeah, I think it's meant to be. I don't think it ends up being a shit your pants. I think aesthetically it feels a lot like those kind of more comedy central ones, the Zombielands and stuff. I think aesthetically that was the look I was getting.
Yeah, because it all happens in daytime as well.
It does, which is quite the interesting part of it, that it's daytime rather than
dark of night, people hiding in the shadows. They did it all out in the open.
It's more an action film, isn't it? If you say it's like a disaster film, it is a disaster film, and it's more an action film. It is really about that. It's not there to go, "Oh, be scared." Yeah, it's more about the action adventure elements of it, the fighting, the fighting them off, the disaster elements, the sequences, I guess.
Yeah.
Rather than, oh, someone's invading my house in the middle of the night. It's kind of.
Well, if you think about it, like when we mentioned the Poseidon adventure, you meet all the characters and they're on a journey together. So in the Poseidon adventure, obviously they're on a cruise. Obviously no zombies on the Poseidon adventure. But
that'd be a good sequel.
It would, wouldn't it? We could do it on a ship. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Cruise to Busan. You've got this like situation where on the Poseidon adventure they're all stuck in a ship together. And on this, they're stuck in a train. So I thought that was a really interesting element to it, that they're, obviously there's a few moments where they get off the train and they get back on again, or they switch trains or whatever it is. But it is basically taking place, within this confined space is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And, there's other movies we've seen that take place on a train, something like The Silver Streak. Have you ever seen that with Gene Wilder, Richard Pryor?
No, I haven't.
And that's pretty much the whole movie takes place on a train. There are other examples I'm sure we could think of. But to put, a load of people inside some tightly confined carriages where there's, a zombie apocalypse happening and the infection is spreading like wildfire throughout the train, I thought was really good way to ramp up the tension and really get you going, because...
It was. And also because it's like they're in isolated carriages, aren't they? So it's like, at one point later in the film, there's the people in the one carriage and then there's multiple carriages full of zombies and then the others are on another carriage. So they've kind of got to get to that other carriage.
Yeah.
Which, much like the Poseidon Adventure in terms of that cabin's flooding, so we need to get through these cabins to get to the next one. Yeah. It's the same kind of idea.
It is.
And that's what I very much thought, with Disaster Movie. It was like, because it is like sequence after sequence, somebody ends up dying, as always happens. The sacrifice or whatever, holding them off whilst the rest get through, and it's that perpetual sequence.
That's another trope of these disaster movies, isn't it? We got a cast of, say, just for argument's sake, we got 10 people. How many of them are going to be left at the end? It's just who's going to get picked off when? We know most of these people are going to die one way or another in some sort of horrible fashion, or in this case, get turned into zombies themselves. But who's going to get it when? How many people are going to survive to the end? So, subtitled movie, obviously, it's a Korean film. That didn't bother me at all. It was quite easy to follow. It wasn't like, as far as I'm concerned, the greatest script in the world. It was kind of, matter of fact. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it was just, it is what it is. With these kind of things, you kind of expect. Sometimes the dialogue was like, oh, that's a bit shit. But we discussed this straight after watching it. Is it the subtitles?
Is it the translation?
Yeah, and so
it's hard
to know. Mm. Yeah, exactly. So without knowing that, I can't really judge it on that.
No.
But apart from that, the story was straightforward. I appreciated the fact they didn't linger on exposition. It was like, there's a outbreak, there's a thingy, they're on the train, that's it. No,
let's go.
More than that. Yeah, getting straight on with it. I liked that. They didn't over-explain things.
No.
It was straight into the action.
Yeah.
And off we went. The drama that was there underneath it, the father and daughter relationship and stuff, was actually really well done.
Mm-hmm.
And quite emotional at the end. It got me slightly going, there is some moments like that.
Mm-hmm.
Other moments I was like, I don't really care. Like the gang of kids that were on the train, I couldn't give a shit about.
Right.
And stuff. There's a few characters where you care less about, but that's always the case in these things. I think, some you'll go, I like them, and then some you don't. That's different people liking different characters, I guess. But they all did the job, I guess, of the characters they were portraying.
I think that's one of the interesting things about these films, that you get introduced to an array of different people from different, walks of life. And it is about, who you are going to invest in terms of who you care about. Obviously, you're always supposed to care about the main characters. And as we said, there's a father and daughter in this, where, you're obviously supposed to care about them, especially the little girl. She's innocent. She's done nothing wrong in life. Obviously you want her to survive. Her dad is a little bit ambiguous in the sense that, the type of job he's got and his attitude and his outlook towards the world, it could be construed as being a little bit selfish, a little bit of a cold fish in a way. So with him, it's kind of different. But then you also get, in the supporting cast, you get a couple, and the wife is pregnant, quite heavily pregnant. She's showing, and the husband's there with her. He's kind of a nice guy. He's kind of cool. You kind of like him, and he saves quite a lot of people on the way, by using his sort of fighting skills or his brute strength or his will to sort of save others. So he's kind of a good guy. He was played by Dong-seok. And he is actually also appearing in The Eternals, which we may talk about in a little while. But he's the only guy I could note in there that was, that as far as I know, has broke into sort of Western films as well. But I thought he was excellent in it. I really enjoyed his character.
He was good, wasn't he?
It was that typical sort of like, I'm the father to be, I like to have a little bit of a joke with my wife. She likes to give me a hard time and run me over the coals, but at the end of the day, he's the guy who's saving people. So you've got a character like that, but you've also got a character like, the businessman, the older guy that is just ruthless in the sense that he would throw his own mother in front of the zombies if it just gave him another
total bastard
couple of minutes to try and escape. He is a complete and utter bar steward. But these films need characters like that because
absolutely.
That's really the comment on humanity, isn't it? On the different personality,
what people
types
will do,
and traits, and what some people will do in terms of to save their own neck. So you've got the guy I was talking about, who's the dad, who will actually risk his own life in order to save others, even if some of them others really, in our minds as an audience, aren't worth saving. And then you've got this older guy who's a complete bastard, but he manages to survive, most of the movie by, sacrificing other people. Those kids you talked about, the baseball team, he's throwing them in front of the zombies. He's, anything that'll buy him a few minutes to smash a window and get out the other side. And he's the kind of guy you just like, you son of a bitch. But it's great for it, isn't it? It's great to have those. I'm sure there were characters like that in these films, like the Poseidon Adventure and stuff, the ones that act completely selfishly to save their own lives, and you think, you bastard.
Yeah, I thought it was great fun. It's filled with action. There's some elements that are quite cheesy about it. There's some great visuals when it's physical and practical, and you've got a big crowd of zombies and they're chasing down the stairs and stuff. It looks fantastic and kind of crammed trains and stuff. And then sometimes where they've had to use some of the CGI with trains flying over tracks and stuff, it gets a little bit ropey. It's obviously not the biggest budget film, but it does what it's meant to do, and it's a good popcorn flick, isn't it?
It is, and I think it's commendable in a lot of ways, in the sense that everybody who gets turned into a zombie or already is a zombie, their acting was really good. I thought that it was a little bit different than, like you did at the start. This kind of there was none of that. It was they were kind of like contorted and sort of had sort of sharp movements and motions, and were quite threatening in that way. This was a film as well that didn't lean on gore to try and get its point across or to sell it. Obviously, there's going to be a little bit of blood and biting and stuff like that going on, but they didn't over-egg that to the point like Western films do, where you just complete bloodbath and completely soaked in blood. They didn't need to lean on that because the peril was there in different ways and in other ways. And I thought it did very well for that. As we've already mentioned, it all takes place in daylight as well, so it's not like they were hiding a lot of stuff in the shadows. Okay, fair enough. Maybe some of the special effects were a little bit under par compared to what we're used to, but I still think a damn fine job. Another great Korean movie. I mean, if we're looking at Korean cinema and we've got standout films like Old Boy or Parasite, and Train to Busan has got to be mentioned within that collection as well. I think South Korean films are, they've got a great track of cinema there, and I very much enjoyed this one. It was a thumbs up from me.
And it's a thumbs up from me.
So there we go. 3 thumbs up in total from us two. So what did you think of Train to Busan? Please leave us a comment and let us know. Did you think it was a great zombie film like we did? Are you interested in Korean cinema? You know what to do. So, tweet of the week this week goes out to somebody who shall remain nameless because we don't want to name and shame people. But we did have a good old laugh about this one. Last week, we released an article, Our Brief History of Film Noir. And the lead image on it, we led in with The Third Man, which is like a classic British film noir film. And we received this comment on it that said, The Third Man is not a film noir. Where do we get these people from, Dave?
I don't know. It's ridiculous. I mean, come on.
I mean, like we said, it's a bit like saying Spider-Man is not a comic book movie.
Yeah. Star Wars is not science fiction. It's like
Romeo and Juliet is not a tragic love story.
Yeah. It's like the film that every single person would say, this is a film noir,
Yeah.
Iconic film noir, noted for its cinematography, which is all based on chiaroscuro lighting. And
I think the argument from this person was as well as the fact that it was a British production and therefore somehow cannot be proper film noir because apparently only American film noirs are proper film noirs.
Absolute nonsense.
Well, considering that the genre is informed by German expressionist cinema, Italian neorealism.
Yeah, and French beautiful cinema and all that. Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Oh, hilarious stuff. Can't believe it. But there we go. God bless you, sir. But, what can you do with that?
Okay, so in other news, have you seen that they're doing a serial tie-in for the Scream movie? This is going to be Strawberries and Scream.
Oh, a serial tie-in?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you meant like a serial, like a short TV series, like a mini-series? You mean like...
Breakfast cereal.
Yeah, I see.
Strawberries and Scream crispy mallow cereal clusters.
Wow. Well,
this reminds me of all the old serials. Remember they used to do for different films that we used to love as a kid. It seems like they haven't done this for years, but
maybe it's just because we're just not kids anymore, and we haven't been kids for years. Maybe they still do it. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. We're not kids anymore.
I remember fighting with my sister over who was going to get the toy out of it.
Yeah, that was always the thing. I always just remember the toy being the key thing of it. But it reminded me of some of the old ones. Some of them I'm too young to remember, but one of the most famous ones was C-3POs, which was the Star Wars cereal.
Oh, right.
Which I'm sure your sister only have with blue milk.
Turns the milk blue. Very good. I remember things like, in the 80s, the films like Ghostbusters and Willow and things like that getting certain, promotional stuff on the cereal packets, usually with Kellogg's, because Kellogg's was like the main sort of cereal. But now and again, you get things like Weetabix and stuff maybe would carry some sort of branding or advertising for movies. But it's been a long time. I don't really eat cereal anymore, so I wouldn't know what's going on.
I'm assuming the Ghostbusters cereal came with marshmallows in it, did it?
Well, no, I don't think it was so much that they changed the cereal, but like I said, they probably put a toy in it, and they usually had stuff on the back, like maybe you could cut out a mask and make yourself a mask out of the box or something like that. But
because that's the thing, I usually remember the tie-ins being a toy or a gift or a CD or.
I think that's because in the UK it's a little bit more, You know,
Yeah, but the Americans have these whole cereal chains.
They got Lucky Charms, Cheerios. Really, we didn't really have over here in the 80s. It was probably more recent that you know, in the last 20 years that's been introduced over here as well. But you know, you can get anything nowadays. Back then, you couldn't. So, like I said, Kellogg's cereals, Frosties, and Cocoa Pops, and cornflakes and stuff all carried some sort of advertising and branding for the films. And like I say, you get a toy in there or some sort of activities on the back of the packet. But as for marshmallows in your cereal, we should be so lucky.
Sounds disgusting to me. I just stuck with shredded wheat, you know.
Nice and simple.
No, two's quite enough for me, thank you.
With 100% whole wheat nourishment packed into shredded wheat, who can eat more than two?
So we mentioned it earlier, The Eternals, which also features the actor from Train to Busan. His name is Dong-seok. I think I'm saying that right. He's also in The Eternals. Have you noticed, though, that it's had a bit of a pan in this one?
It has. It's had a, I mean, not a terrible box office opening, but it's done far less than projected it was going to make. And you know, it's without a doubt the worst reviewed Marvel movie critically.
Yeah.
And I think it's had a huge impact on people going to see it. Basically, you know, it wasn't a big character anyway. You know, it wasn't a Hulk or a Captain America or something that would draw people in. So I think the word of mouth on critically has really hit the ticket sales, hasn't it?
Yeah, it seems to have divided people. I've seen that some people have gone to see it, said it was really good, and they very much enjoyed it, and they didn't understand what all the fuss was about. And obviously, on the other side of the fence, people have been panning it, saying it's awful. We did a reaction to the trailer a couple of months ago when that came out. I'm a Marvel fan, but only to an extent. I mean, when it comes to the Eternals, I don't really know anything about that side of the franchise or the characters within it. It seemed to me a little bit like, well, now the Avengers is done and dusted, we've got to have some other sort of form of a group of sort of superheroes in one way or another. And it's got all the stars. It's got Angelina Jolie. It's got, you know, the lads from Game of Thrones and all sorts of people in it. But yeah, it seems to have fell on its face a little bit, unfortunately. Maybe it's because it's up against Dune, it's up against, you know, James Bond and all that sort of stuff that's come out recently, and it may have suffered for that reason. It may pick up a bit on home media. Maybe, and I think it's definitely impacted it. I think definitely that there's a lot of competition out there at the minute. I also think Marvel are overreaching a lot recently, and they've crammed a lot of releases in the last few months. We've just had Shang-Chi come out, and there was the Black Widow film, and it's like, as we've mentioned before, how many there is just exhausting, you know. And, this is what we've talked about they've got to be careful about dilution. Yeah, because on top of that, there's all the talking of serials, there's all the mini-series as well. You know, you had WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier and all of that stuff, the Loki mini-series. So there's a lot of content from them. I haven't seen this yet. I still want to. I want to check it out and see what it's all about, make my own mind up about it. But doesn't seem good.
Doesn't sound very good, does it?
What do you think? Have you watched The Eternals? Was it any good? Let us know in the comments. Should we be bothering with this, or should we just put it on the whenever we get to it pile? Let us know.
And finally, on the plus side of things in the news this week, for the first time since kind of the pandemic hit, really, AMC Cinemas, which is the biggest cinema chain in America, their stock rose quite significantly, about 8%, which is a huge sign of what we have seen. Cinemas are reopening now, big films coming out, Dune, James Bond, stuff like that. Yeah, we've been going, and everyone's been going. We've been back. It's a really healthy sign, really, and it's a long journey back. There's no doubt about that, but it's certainly bouncing, and I think we'll continue to see this now that eventually it'll get back to the level it was at. Well, there's been so many films like waiting in the wings to get released.
and then been waiting for it to be safe again. So, you know, we've had Dune, we've had Bond, we've had The French Dispatch we both saw. That was something we were looking forward to. I was a little bit disappointed that I didn't manage to catch The Last Duel in the cinemas. It was gone before. We were planning to go and see it, and then it was gone. It was took out.
Yeah, I think that's something we've seen recently. There's really short windows in the cinema, and they seem to be pulling them very, very quickly due to no audience demand and other films competing for the spots. And I think monetarily they're just kind of pulling them quite quickly, which is...
Yeah, it was a shame. It was a shame not to see that one. Hopefully we'll catch it on demand in another month or so. But there we go. At least people are going back to the theatres and watching these movies on the big screen again. What about you? What's the next one you're planning to go and see on the big screen?
Probably for me, I think it'll probably be West Side Story.
Definitely. I've definitely got to see that. It's going to be great.
Tonight.
That just gives us enough time to tell you about what else we've been up to on the web this week. So you can check out our reaction to the trailer for Black Friday, starring Bruce Campbell and Michael Jai White. So if you want to check out our reaction to that trailer, there's a link in the description below, or it's here elsewhere on our YouTube channel.
We've also got an article up on the website, our top 5 Ingmar Bergman films. Of course, we do these every so often, the top 5 directors' films. There's a whole host of them on the website you can go and check out in the top 5 section. But this week it's Ingmar Bergman.
That's right, and we've also had a review for the classic movie, the sci-fi dystopian adventure film starring Michael York. It is Logan's Run. So if you're a fan of that movie, make sure you check out our Film in 5 review for that one.
Excellent film, excellent review. Also, if you want to listen to us on the go, or you just want to listen to us audio only whilst you're cooking in the kitchen, you can check us out on the usual podcast vendors, Spotify, Apple, all of those. We'll leave a link to that in the description down below.
There's also a link to our Discord server, which we set up last month. So if you Discord as well, come and join us over there. Again, there's the link. Come and say hello.
And if you like what we're doing over here on YouTube, then you can support us at buymeacoffee.com, or you can become a patron over at patreon.com, where you can subscribe, and they've got lots of things going on, including you can vote on what films we watch here on the podcast or in our reviews.
Fantastic. And don't forget to join us on social media. That's at More Movies For You on all of the major social media platforms, where you can see silly things like the movie of the day. What's up, fam? Today's movie of the day is Downfall, about that douchebag Hitler. You know, it's the one that they made all those memes about a few years ago.
Das war ein Befehl! Der Angriff Steiners war ein Befehl!
All right. Chill. So there we go, Dave. There's episode 32, all done and dusted and ready to send out there into the internet universe. We're off now. Please join us again next week for another More Movies Weekly, where we'll be talking about some other movies, what we've been watching, all of our reviews, etc. Dave, any final thoughts?
Well, I just got to go catch this train to Busan, so I'm going to hurry up.
Yeah, well, be careful. All right, take care of yourself, and hopefully we'll see you next week on another More Movies Weekly. Well, that's it for this video. Please leave us a comment and let us know what you thought, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe right here on YouTube. To check out more of our articles and reviews, check out our website, moremovies.co.uk, and why not join us on social media? That's at More Movies For You across the board. You know the score. And if you'd like to support us, consider buying us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com, or you can become a More Movies patron over on patreon.com. All the links are in the description below. And to check out more of our filmtastic videos, click one of the buttons on screen now.